first group, first day of clinical, whatever. So I'm hustling up and down the halls at Kane, trying to make sure everybody's getting started, working with their, you know how it goes that first day at Kane, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and they don't know what you're doing, and nobody knows. I take to shadow your nursing assistant and, you know, figure out what your patient's needs are and blah, blah, blah. So I'm walking down the end of the hall, and I hear this beautiful voice singing. I'm thinking, oh, somebody has a radio on, okay? I get in a room, it's this beautiful woman here singing while she's bathing her patient. Patient's crying. She sings like an angel, by the way.
Not singing during this.
And
Not part of it.
she made such a connection with that Roberta, who, by the way, is still there.
Still there.
And I knew right away she had it. She has what it takes. Look at her. She's lifting up her arms and cleaning her and singing an Adele song, and everybody's all happy. And I'm like, this stuff doesn't happen in Kane. Okay? Like, so she brought a little spark of joy to her patient the weeks that she was there. And Roberta really looked forward to seeing her.
Nice.
The sad part is not only just at Kane, but probably most assisted living or nursing homes, that doesn't happen.
Most places.
It's not just
Doesn't
Kane.
happen.
I mean,
That's why I
Kane gets a bad rap, but it's not just at Kane, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's in all.
Well, so that's basically good. I was a former graduate of this program, different curriculum, but former graduate of this program. And then I went on to work at a neuro med surg unit at Shadyside Hospital up on 6 West. You guys are, I don't know where all you shadow now. And then went from there to the ICU, and now I work for UPMC SWAT ICU. So I work in all the ICUs in all the hospitals across the system. So I get to see a lot. I get to learn a lot of different things. We're cross-trained in IR, OR, PACU, ED, trauma, kind of across the boat. So it's nice because you don't get caught in the politics of the units, which can happen. And it'll be one of the things that you'll find that you really have to just kind of suck it up. And let me tell you that the grass isn't greener anywhere else. The grass is green where you plant your seed. So make it what you can, where you go. Enjoy the people that you work with and what you do for a living. Management is always going to be management wherever it is, you know? So that being said, I am in my BSN program now. This is actually for one of my final classes because I graduate May 11th from that program. And I'm in a speech course, so thank you for listening to me today. First, let me say congratulations. You're almost there. You've made it through what I still consider one of the most grueling and exhausting experiences, which is what they call nursing school. Take a deep breath. You've only got one small little itty bitty test left, and then you can call yourself registered nurses, okay? I realize you probably at times stop and think to yourself, how in God's name am I ever going to remember all of the information that you just learned? Believe me, I've been there. Let me tell you, it's in there. When you need it, you'll be able to access it. The more you use it, the more second nature it will become. Remember to always use the resources that you have in this room. These people will be some of your lifelines as you go through this career. The nurses on your units, the references that you have at your fingertips when you're on those units, use them. They're there for a reason. Don't ever think that you can't ask. When I was first preparing to give this speech, I was asking myself, what knowledge do I want to give future nurses? Or what information do I think will benefit you guys moving forward? I initially thought about helping you prep for NCLEX and decided that was a total disaster because I know you're probably tired of already speaking about that on a regular basis. Then I thought I'd try to help you optimize your time in your orientations from, tips and tricks that I learned as a preceptor myself. And that kind of got me into where I'm at now. So I've learned over the years, and then through conversations with Ms. Simador and other instructors and nursing professionals and medical professionals, that the one thing that I always come back to is the importance of nursing values. And how you can take this piece of paper, this degree that you have, and make such a meaningful and profound impact on nursing in general. There's multiple little nuggets that I want to share with you. Ideals and attitudes each one of you should carry into your career so that you can truly reach your potential as nursing leaders. First, never stop learning. This is not the end of it. I'm not here to lecture you on the pathophysiology of the blood flow through the heart and where it goes and how it dumps oxygen. You've learned that. You got that here. You will learn to take that with you into where you go. The more familiar you become with the information that you have, again, the easier it will be for you to use. But not just on orientation. Every day you walk into work, be a sponge. Listen to your doctors and your fellow nurses. Ask questions. Seek out learning opportunities and never stop learning. You must maintain an understanding that you don't know everything, and at no point will you ever know everything. And if at any point you think you do, you don't belong in this profession, because it is a continuum from this point on. Things change, medicine changes, people have new ways of doing things. I'm constantly challenging myself to learn more. If I make a suggestion to a physician that I think something should happen and they disagree with me, that's fine. Teach me why. Give me the knowledge that I can add to my own arsenal of knowledge and use that for future experiences and future interactions with my patients. If you become compliant, you're not only hindering yourself, but you're doing a disservice to your patients as well. And that brings me to my next point. Do not limit your potential by your pride, your ego, or your prejudice. One of the many things that I've encountered over the years that really breaks my heart is jaded nurses. You saw them through nursing school on clinicals. You're gonna see them in every unit you walk onto. Don't be one of those nurses. It's easy for us to all fall into that gap where, there are some patients that you see that don't necessarily want your help or care for the help that you're trying to provide them. They will rub you the wrong way, but don't let that choice that they're making control who you are as a nurse or what you bring to your next patient. There's a lot of units across the system. McKeesport Mercy see a lot of IV drug abuse. Neuro units see a lot of fake seizures. Just because we don't see it on a scan doesn't mean that there's not something wrong, that they don't need help. The Nightingale Pledge, which I'm sure you guys have heard since you've been here, the last line of that pledge says, devote myself to the welfare of those committed to my care, and that is your job, to do it to everyone that walks in that door, whether you appreciate who they are or not. Believe me, I have a lot of my own personal opinions on some of those topics, but it's not my job, nor is it my place to have my personal opinion at the bedside. I've talked to a lot of patients that have been there for months, that, in Mercy specifically, that had weeks on weeks of nurses who just didn't even talk to them. You could be the nurse that they sit down and have a conversation with that helps them switch, or helps them look at it differently, or makes them feel understood, and that's your job. They're there all day. I hope that nursing practices come into the way that they do, that we can have safe staffing ratios and you have the time to do that. But if you don't, you were saying when you came in, you gotta time manage. I'm horrible when I go back to Florida still with time management. And I'll sit in a family meeting for 45 minutes with a patient that's deciding to become a CMO on his own. And then I'm there and I come out and they're like, where have you been for the last 45 minutes? I've been in for the meeting because that's my patient and that's what's important. This is a life-changing moment for them. And they need someone to reference back because those doctors come in and out very fast and you're the one left answering questions. So know your stuff. I have received multiple awards and acknowledgements throughout UPMC, and I can guarantee you that not a single one of them was how good I could differentiate breath sounds. Okay? You need to know how to do it. It is your job and your duty in the profession that you're choosing to know that information, but it's also important that you use that knowledge but build on it to be a person to someone. I do want to read one of the awards that I have got. They're submitted by patient family members or patients themselves that submit to the hospitals. They're called Above and Beyond Awards throughout the system. This is a good example of, these are the reasons that I do what I do and why I love what I do. I've had a wedding for a patient because his daughter was getting married and he wasn't going to be there anymore whenever the wedding happened, so we brought the wedding to him. I've had other patients that come in trauma that have been there for 2 days and were a C-spine fracture, and no one took the time to wash her hair or comb the leaves out of her. Like, take the time. It's little things. People aren't human anymore when they go to a hospital. So if I could read that to you, I'd appreciate it. My mother was diagnosed with a glioblastoma at the end of January. On Easter morning, I had to call 911 as she couldn't speak and her right side went weak. I asked the paramedics to take her to UPMC Shadyside, where it was determined that my mom was having continuous seizure activity. She was admitted to the neuro ICU and stayed there for almost a week. The entire staff was excellent. One of the nurses, Shannon, stood out to me. Her compassion towards my mother was amazing and comforting when I couldn't be there. Shannon held my mom's hand, hugged her when she cried, and even gave my mom a manicure one night that my mother still raves about. She called my cell when my mom cried for me and let my mom hear my voice to calm her down. She even visited her when she could move to the regular neuroscience unit. These nurses treated my mom with dignity and respect, and I want to thank them all. Okay. There's a reason that nursing is called the heart of medicine. These are people. This is someone's brother, sister, husband, father. These are their friends. Treat them as such. Ask yourself every day you walk into a room, how would I want to be treated, or how would I want that person that I love to be treated? I could spend an entire day talking about the importance of taking time to talk to your patients and tending to their personal needs, but I'm not allotted that kind of time here. These are not just patients, and I cannot stress that enough. These are people. They are sick, they are scared, they are stressed, and so are their families. Explain to them what is going on, answer their questions, and help them maintain some sense of self in an environment that strips them of their dignity and independence. It's one of the easiest and humane things that we can do, but it is so often forgotten, and you can see it. Please, I implore you, don't forget. Sure, this is how you're going to make a living, but this is their life. I want to leave you with one more little nugget, one that takes courage, strength, and tenacity. It's advocating, and I know you probably talked about that a lot in this last semester. Being an advocate is quintessential description of what nursing is, along with being the heart of nursing, or heart of medicine, excuse me. Advocate for your patients as well as for your profession. You as nurses are the eyes and ears of your patients and their families. You're at the bedside for 12 plus hours at a time. These physicians will come to you for information, and the smart ones will ask for your advice. Does happen, promise. But don't stop there, advocate for healthcare as well. You are not just one person. According to the World Health Organization, nurses and midwives make up 50% of the health workforce. It's 50% is just nurses. We're poised in a position to take monumental changes to healthcare, and if we can fight for it and advocate for it, for any need that we see in our profession. Take an example of what we just saw 2 weeks ago. One, Senator Walsh decided to make one asinine comment about playing cards for 12 hours. Someone decided to make a petition for her to follow a nurse for 12 hours. Within 3 days, over 500,000 people had signed that petition. In 3 days. If we collectively put our efforts together, there's a ton of us out there. Find something that you're passionate about in the work that you do, something you believe needs changed or improved, and advocate for it. I'm currently working on a project myself to better the system in what we call MedCall, which is how people transfer from one facility to another. And being in the position that I'm in, that I work in the tertiary systems and in the closed systems, I see how dysfunctional that process is and how it could be improved. Yes, I am just one person, but I know a lot of people, and a lot of those people I know have influence. So be the first one that starts the ball rolling. I challenge you to not just go to work every day, but to stand up and make a difference in the lives of your patients and in the world of healthcare. Advocate, educate, and care for this profession you have chosen and the people it influences along the way. You are the future of nursing. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you. I wish you great success as you move forward in this journey. I am a little bit of everywhere, and I hope that our paths cross at some point in the future. Good luck. Remember to take care of yourself, and I'll see you out there. Any questions? He wants you to hit the red button.
Could you briefly share that story that you told me when we had lunch about that man that was dying and his family didn't want to put him on DNR?
Which one? Well, I have one recent. I have one that was last week.
She makes a difference every day in people's lives, just so you know. And she's adaptable because she's going to every different ICU within UPM State. And she's walking in and she knows just what she's doing with an air of confidence. And I guarantee you the doctors are asking, she's at some of the lower tier UPMC hospitals, and they know she works at the big time ones too. And they're wondering, what do they do down in Pittsburgh for this, like, and stuff.
I'm always looking for the things that I want in one hospital that they don't have there. And I'm like, oh my God, just bring me the machine and they can do it. Northwest. So I had a patient, came in, he was in probably CHF, but he wasn't aware of it, hadn't gone to a hospital in a really long time, was in his 40s, was, really gasping for air, came back to the ICU, he was on a non-rebreather, and I was talking to him about what he wanted. We couldn't get his stats up, we couldn't get his blood gas to normalize, knew that we were gonna have to intubate him. So we talked about it, he was able to make his own decisions, you could tell like he didn't feel good, he was like, whatever you need to do, intubate me fine. Intubated him. Within the first 24 hours, he went into multi-system organ failure, kidneys shut down, everything was shutting down. He needed dialysis desperately that they were unable to do at the facility that I was at. They couldn't do continual renal replacement therapy in their ICU, and the dialysis wouldn't be in until the morning. So they talked to us, they talked to family, they brought in sisters. One of the sisters had died 2 days prior, so the family was already kind of in their own upheaval of things. Sat and tried to explain to the family that this intervention could not happen here. They wanted to keep him, they had a funeral 2 days later, they didn't wanna have to go to Pittsburgh and move around, and that's fine. You know, that's not our place to make that call. I wish that there would've been more conversation with me and that patient prior, than that, but it didn't happen. And then when we, you know, finally were able to try to wean him off, he had multiple strokes, in the process, so we ended up letting him go within about a week from there. The other one was the older man, it was like 92, and I hate fully resuscitating 90-year-old patients, but people don't have this conversation with their families. And if you can push one thing to any person that walks into a hospital or any family member that you have, last speech I gave was about advanced directives and the importance that I have one for my kids so that they don't ever have to be put in a position to make any decisions for me. They can just, other people can do what I want. But we intubated a 92-year-old man who was never gonna come off of that breathing tube, and, you know, just kind of put him through the ringer for about a week. Family still wanted resuscitation orders if his heart would stop, and it was going to. And we luckily were able to have that conversation prior to us having to pump on his chest, because that's just heartbreaking. I've done it enough, and it's easy to break a 20-year-old's ribcage. You can't imagine the damage you do to a 90-year-old man. Because even if you do it, and there's nice ways to say it, and there's bad ways to say it. My kids are used to hearing this type of talk from me if they can't get away from it. The damage that we do already, even if we got your heart back, the injuries you sustain from some of the stuff that we do to you in those kinds of codes is unimaginable. And the only unit that I know of right now that allows family to come in during it, aside from pediatric, is trauma. They'll let you come in the middle of a code while we're going completely crazy with your family members, so you can see, do you really want this done? Because in your mind, everybody wants everything done until they physically see it happen to their family. So, yeah, good combos there.
Yeah, I just wish my husband would have had nurses like Shannon. We had a rare few, but not very many. And so, like she said, look at their faces, treat them like persons, put yourself in their situation. And this is a really good group. These people are all really as good as you. And I hope they have as successful and great a career. Because Shannon's making a difference every day in people's lives. And it makes me feel good as I'm ready to retire, that I had a part in any education of anybody that makes a difference in people's lives.
One of my
Makes me
favorite
feel-
people. The only reason I got through this, actually, because I severed a tendon in my hand with 28 hours left in my clinicals. And they were not going to allow me to graduate. Even though the testing was all done, all the courses were done, and she agreed to do the precepting, the mentoring, in August, so that I could complete my 28 hours when my hand was healed. But an instructor had to agree to do it, or I would have had to redo the semester. So, politics.
So she finished her incomplete, and
Yeah.
poor Emily's facing that now with
Yeah.
the baby, because she's only starting to do her clinicals now.
Yeah.
We're gonna get her done. We're gonna get her done in time, one way or another. But now, see,
You're gonna be
she's
tired.
having her mentor. Now her mentor's not being nice to her.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest she does?
At the hospital,
Yeah.
so the person you're
You
orienting
think she's
with-
just overworked, or she's just a miserable person? Because I'm not sure why you would sign up to be a mentor if
Well,
you're not
I
gonna be.
actually found common ground with her, and so she was acting nicer to me today. And then the PCTs were actually today. They were very rude and didn't want to do anything. So she stuck up for me because they like wanted me to do all these patients' vitals and like do all the vet cams. And so she stuck up for me. So I think
Yeah,
we
you're
found,
not there for that, yeah.
the common ground, so like it's better.
So she, okay,
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I think, and that's gonna happen to you, even if it's happening to you now, there's a good chance that you guys might be paired with someone on your orientation to the unit you get hired that you were gonna bump heads with. Not everyone does things the same or agrees with things the same. There's a lot of nurses that I know that orient new nurses that shouldn't be anywhere near new nurses. But they're just picked for that because they've got tenure and that's it. And they look at it as a way to sit down and look up dresses and hang out at the nurse's station while you do all the work. It's there. The best thing that you can do is first try to tell them that you're there to learn and that you really want to get something out of this and you don't want to end your 6 to 8 week orientation, whatever it is, still questioning your abilities. If they're not willing to jump after you say that, then you can talk to the clinician. You can talk. I mean, I'm always a advocate for speaking to the person first and doing what you can so it doesn't look like you're going behind their back, because most people will respect that, blunt approach. But if it's not working and you're not getting out of it what you should, then you have every right to go forward, because this is your license, this is your career, this is your education. So speak up for yourself. I get into it with doctors all the time. It's not my proudest moment, I do it everywhere. But I know what I want, and I know what I think we should have. And I'm, like I said, I'm completely open to being told no. And there's a lot of great physicians out there that will teach me new ways to do things, and then there's other ones that are like, this is how we do it. Least favorite answer ever, so tell me more. Like, I'll push, and I'm like, it's been some of my proudest moments, and it's gotten me in some trouble, but I have to find like the common ground between the two. But there is one, I'll figure it out sometime eventually. But it's always with the best interest of the people that I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it to prove myself or what I think I know, because like I said, I don't know everything. So teach me. I just learned yesterday from a family meeting that a persistent vegetative state from a anoxic brain injury is only up to 3 months. After 3 months, you can stop any measures that you want.
Oh,
If
really?
it becomes a permanent vegetative state. If it's a traumatic injury, it's 12 months that you're considered persistent. I learned that yesterday, because I have a patient that's an anoxic injury from an overdose now, and family's gone full guns blazing, which is fine. Like I said, they just need to know what their options are past this point, and what their expectations are, so,
Were you still at Mercy?
yes, madness.
Which floor?
10 tower,
Who's on 10?
completely insane.
I'm
None
on
of you
9.
guys are on 10.
I'm on 9.
Insane, it's insane.
9,
It's
11,
insane.
12.
And they don't know what to do with me
12,
because
11.
they're like, are you still charting ICU? I'm like, yeah, because I don't know how not to chart that much.
Yeah.
So it just makes me nauseous because of how much I'm doing. I'm like, all my patients are super happy. Hospital's not, because I haven't charted anything. Like, but I'll get to it. Luckily, I'm in a place where like I can hit it pretty quickly. So if that becomes the last thing I do in the day, that's the last thing I do. But I make sure that gets done first. I remember starting off nursing, having things written all over my arms, or on my gloves, or on my pants. I had a piece of tape on my pants that would do different things and notes of times that I did things, so that when I went back to chart, I could, because this was more important to me, and I'll figure that out later. But that's chart everything. I'm a comment crazy person. If you ever get it, I know a lot of people already in the 5 years that I've been doing this that have been subpoenaed to court for various things, because everyone wants to sue someone. So chart everything. They're not lying, because you won't remember it in 3 years.
Oh, no, you do have to. You're absolutely
You're
right.
gonna have everything ready. Because
Well,
that's the
1:30
thing
Labs
say
Day,
is
we were
if I
talking-
started, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we were talking about hospice today, and I showed him a short segment on a gentleman up in the University of Buffalo that works in hospice, and he was making a comment about how people, when they're close to dying, often have visual images or dreams of someone that's passed on that they cared about. And I said, that's funny, because like 2 weeks before my husband died,
recording,
I
'cause
was
mine didn't.
helping him get